Dave had never anticipated needing to take such extreme measures. It was against his principles to pry into someone's private life, but he could no longer trust his wife. Not after she treated him like that. They used to get along well, but things had recently deteriorated. Dave's life is profoundly altered by what he captures on video, however. Dave began to have increasing doubts about his wife, Noah. Previously, she had shown him nothing but love, but recently, she'd begun to change her behavior. No way could Dave have anticipated the rationale. When it came to keeping tabs on his wife, he had spared no effort. Dave had installed hidden cameras around the home without telling his wife. But he wasn't really behind his own choice. So, until his wife did that, he avoided looking in the cameras. Noah had deceived Dave. She had secretly purchased a vehicle so she could go to and from work without his knowing. However, Dave was aware it wasn't the actual cause. He finally gave in to the mounting suspicion and examined the surveillance tapes. The question is, what exactly will Dave see on the tapes? Why did Noah feel the need to deceive Dave anyway? They've been married for 5 years, but Dave and Noah met in college. They connected right away upon meeting one another at a professional event. After barely 3 months of dating, they tied the knot because they knew it was the right decision for them. Dave, however, could not have foreseen the current state of affairs in his marriage. Noah is a certified public accountant at the law company where Dave also works. They share a ride to and from work, lunch, and the commute home. Dave and Noah liked having to constantly be reminded of each other by one other's presence, both at home and at work. To put it mildly, for the time being. Weekends are reserved for Dave and Noah's exciting date evenings. Together, they enjoy activities such as roller skating, supper, and movies. Each week on the weekend, one of them would organize an activity. Dave had the whole weekend planned out in advance. To think, it was just Monday. Dave had to leave tomorrow on a little business trip, so he had to have everything set up in advance. The trip would only be from Tuesday to Thursday night, but he was making preparations ahead of time anyhow. He had to do it, since he couldn't afford to be interrupted while working. Unfortunately, his strategy backfired. An odd phone call interrupted Dave's business trip. A call came in from a mysterious number. He usually just ignores them, but something about this one seemed off. Dave became concerned when Noah's response time to his SMS was much slower than usual. However, when he answered the phone, it wasn't a routine call. Still, no one spoke as he waited. Something was out in the distance, but he couldn't quite make out what it was. He decided it was probably a butt dial, and hung up the phone. However, that night it occurred 3 more times. When Dave finally reached out to Noah, he received an unusual answer. She calmly answered the phone call. Her reaction was neither anger nor bewilderment. Given Dave's predisposition for hallucinations, he gave the incident little more consideration thereafter. He had to admit to himself that something wasn't right. His business trip was coming to a quick close. After his return, they had a wonderful weekend together. Dave, though, could not shake the memory of the eerie phone calls. After calling Noah, they stopped, and he couldn't get the idea that they were related to one another out of his head. Dave had further reasons to be wary. And as the weekend progressed, Noah's behavior became more distant. She was called away from her work a few times and had to leave to take calls. Dave did pick up on it, but he admitted it wasn't much. Something wasn't right, and he couldn't shake that sensation. Noah didn't tell Dave, but why? Noah told him she had a surprise in store for him when he inquired about it. Dave was taken aback, yet reluctant to inquire more. He didn't understand his emotions, but he really wanted to trust his wife. She had never done anything to deserve his losing faith in her. They'd been blissfully happy for a long time. After that, he stopped pressing her for details. Before they parted ways for the weekend and prepared to return to work on Monday, she broke some unusual news. Dave regretted not going with his instincts instead of his rational mind. Noah informed Dave that she would be absent from her job for a while. She said that she needed me time and planned to visit a spa to meditate and unwind. Dave gave his wife a perplexed glance, but she had already taken a turn for the worst. Dave was completely unprepared for this. In response to Dave, she began behaving hostile. She tried to reassure him that her desire for alone time was unrelated to him. She sent many conflicting messages, but Dave got the impression that she was trying to avoid making him feel ignored. Dave comforted his wife by wrapping his arms around her. She was well within her rights to take some time off. He hadn't told his wife how he really felt because he didn't want to make her even more angry, but his actual sentiments were beginning to surface. On this particular Monday, Dave had to report to work by himself. At the same time that Noah packed her bags and left the house, she received a text message saying that she had arrived safely. As a courtesy to Dave, she took a taxi to the spa instead of driving herself. Worried, he left his wife at home alone for 3 days. So what if she dumped him? Given how upset she became the other day, it's not out of the question. The house had an eerie silence when Dave returned. This was his first time living on his own and preparing his own meals. Therefore, he decided to place a meal order. He continued rehashing the rationale for his wife's new disposition. Was he involved in any way? Dave was desperate to find out and devised a strategy to do so. He hated to be that man, but he had to know his wife was being truthful with him. Dave borrowed several cameras from a buddy who was in the security business. Dave only needed to put them somewhere his wife wouldn't look. Dave took off the next day from work to finish the setup. Noah planned to return from her spa weekend tomorrow. Everything had to be set up precisely on time, per his instructions. Dave's phone gave him a near-complete overview of the home. The time for anticipation has finally arrived. After a day at the spa, Noah looked the same when she returned home. The spa can't do much about Noah's appearance, but Dave was hoping to see her looking refreshed. In contrast, she was the complete antithesis. She seemed tense and disinterested in chatting with Dave. She greeted Dave with a kiss at the door as she entered. Dave inquired as to whether or not she had gotten enough rest at the spa, and she responded quickly. She yelled at him when he attempted to probe more, and then she left for the upper floor. Perhaps his intuition was spot on. Stumped, Dave couldn't decide what to do. Naturally, he did not want to further aggravate Noah with his ideas. He should have given Noah some space, maybe. The problem was that his own mind was more hostile to him as time went on. Now, trusting Noah was a major challenge for him. Something was up. He was sure of it. Up until she left for a few days, they had a great connection. When Dave discovered an oddity on Noah's phone, his distrust of her only grew. She received a text message with only the date, time, and place, with no more details. Dave found it odd that the person who had texted her was listed as Mr. X in her contacts. Had she started an extramarital affair? Dave decided to take matters into his own hands since he felt helpless. Dave felt he had to tag along on Noah's appointment so he could find out who Noah was meeting with. Perhaps he would be able to catch Noah and her new lover in the act. In any case, he had to exercise caution so as to avoid being exposed. Half an hour later, he finally caught up with her automobile and found where they had agreed to meet. It was a peculiar location. It was a derelict structure near the city's outskirts. If Noah didn't have any business in this area, why would she have planned to meet someone here? The setting was not ideal for a passionate tryst. The other party showed there after just a short delay. Dave didn't recognize the tall guy in the outfit. This talk between them appeared completely out of the ordinary. The suit-wearing guy seemed to be trying to make a point. Noah seemed stunned after his lengthy speech. That was the last straw for Noah and the boyfriend, and they broke up right then. There was a sad expression on Noah's face. Just what was the man's message to her? Dave was compelled to go up to her and console her, but he knew it wouldn't be appropriate. In the end, he did what he thought was right. He made up his mind to follow the suited guy. He was curious about the man's identity. He hopped in his vehicle and drove out with him, following him into the city. They arrived at a large office complex housing several prominent businesses. Dave was curious and wanted to hear more details. Dave wanted to talk to him, but he seemed disoriented in the vast structure. Where do we go from here? Dave had an innate curiosity for the truth. Therefore, he improved upon an existing solution. The only thing he needed was to recall the details from memory. To identify this individual, he needed to recall his license plate number. If he knew who this man was, he may be able to assist Noah in overcoming her many difficulties. Happily, Dave was able to recall the number very quickly. Now, all that was left to do was some research from the comfort of his own home. While driving home, Dave began to have serious second thoughts. What if this guy turned out to be a bad guy? Perhaps it was true that Noah was in peril. Perhaps it would be most efficient to inquire of Noah in all matters. He was hesitant to frighten her away. Possibly, she might find his level of protection too much and think him strange. Dave began his investigation as soon as he returned home. Being that Noah wasn't home yet, he was free to go and track down this stranger. The owner of the license plate was easy to track down, but what he found out stunned him. The vehicle was apparently stolen. Sadly, it went missing many years ago and was never recovered. But what did Noah have in common with a vehicle thief? They never had money problems, and their relationship didn't seem to be very amorous. Dave sought aid from the one person who could provide it. He contacted the authorities for help. They must be able to assist him. As soon as Dave recognized what was happening, he began to describe all he had seen and done. However, he did not get the expected response. The authorities had no interest in assisting him. The only piece of conclusive evidence they had heard so far was the stolen vehicle. Dave's account was incorrect since their database didn't show the automobile had been stolen. David was fuming with rage. Where do we go from here? When faced with a tough decision, he had to make a choose. His mind started to wander while he was walking home from the police station. Dave pulled over to the side of the road and began to weep. Just what was happening? The mystery of how he could have let a possible criminal win over his gorgeous girlfriend remained unanswered. He realized he needed to broach the subject with Noah. After turning the vehicle back on, he began thinking about how to approach the next talk. It was important to him to let her know his worries, but he also wanted to reassure her that everything would be well. But suppose she was thinking something else. Until now, Dave hadn't given it much consideration. Perhaps she had considered ending their relationship. Still, he was unaware of this at the time. Now was the time for him to address her at home, so he left. He made far less time than usual, driving all the way home. There was already someone on the sofa for Dave when he got home. It was Noah. When Dave returned home, he questioned Noah about her meeting with the stranger. The shock on Noah's face was palpable. What was his source for this information? Angry, she stormed out of the room. To what end was he following her? What was it that she had done to earn his utter contempt? There were no responses to Dave's questions. In reality, Noah lost her temper once again and went upstairs to their bedroom, where she closed the door behind her. There was a time when she just needed some time to herself. Dave was in disbelief at what was unfolding before him, but he realized there was still one more thing he could try. He knew he still had the cameras in their home, even if he had a bad feeling about it. Despite his initial reluctance, he was ultimately forced to review the film. Unfortunately, this was the only way to find out the truth. Naturally, he was curious about the film and proceeded to review it on his computer. Dave got onto his computer to review the recent week's worth of film in the hopes of stumbling across anything peculiar. Then he saw some video that made him stutter for a second before saying, "I can't believe this." Another unusual call from a guy he believes to be the same one who was with her in the mysterious structure. When he finally saw the film from the following day, he understood what they had been talking about. There, he saw a sight that defied all reason. He found Noah sobbing over a pregnancy test as she checked it. This astonished Dave. But might he have been the father? He was still in the dark about whether or not she had had an affair with this guy. Without delay, he ascended the stairs to find Noah and inquire. Noah was both relieved and emotional as she told Dave the results of the pregnancy test. She came clean about her pregnancy and said that the father was Dave. Dave and Noah couldn't have been happier, but one question remained. "Where did you see him?" Noah quickly responded. Apparently, she planned a surprise party to tell Dave the happy news that she was expecting. He was the one who orchestrated everything, and because of the need for secrecy, their meetings took place in unusual settings like the building or the spa. Dave realized his error and promptly apologized. Noah forgave them, and the two continued to live happily ever after. You like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.